Okay, good morning. This is my 11th attempt to record this video, and that's just because my webcam is dropping frames, and it's driving me insane watching myself doing a sort of strange robot dance in the corner of the screen, but whatever, I'm going to carry on recording anyway and hope it comes out okay. So my very first email that I'm going to try to answer on YouTube is from Stevie Wicks, not Stevie Nicks, Stevie Wicks. She's 19. And she says that sometimes when she's writing and getting into a scene, one of her characters will suddenly do something unexpected that usually pushes the story in a whole other direction. Her published friend says that it's a good thing when this happens because it means that her story is coming alive and it will be unpredictable to readers because even she didn't know what was going to happen. Now Stevie says that she can see what her friend means, but she was wondering if this happens to me a lot and if she's insane and how do I feel about this? Well, I feel the same way about it that most writers do, which is that we long for this magical moment when all of a sudden the characters come alive and the story seems to have all of a sudden its own energy that didn't belong to you. And it's great because usually up until that point you've been having good days and bad days and you've been chipping away at the story. And suddenly everything feels like it's come alive and it feels wonderful. And writers like to kind of make out that this is a magical moment or something. But it's really not, because it just comes from you. It comes from your accumulation of all the knowledge that you've got about the characters in the story, and you'll reach a sort of saturation point in your head and suddenly you know how things should be. So just like a flash of inspiration that tells you to write the story in the first place, it's not really magic, it is just you. The problem with it is that because it does feel magical and it feels like the story is coming alive and your characters have a life of their own, sometimes you can get carried away with it, and what can tend to happen is that your characters will run on and have scenes and scenes, dialogue or daring adventures that you didn't originally plan on and that turn your story into something completely different. Now sometimes that's great because what you had up until that point wasn't working necessarily. There are times when you were quite happy with the story as it was going, and then all of a sudden you have these characters who weren't necessarily your main characters falling in on the action, or you have things happening that are pushing your story into a different shape and you don't want that. So you just have to remember that just because it feels magical, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should accept that it is and let your characters and story do whatever they want. There are times when you have to say, no, you're going to do this, not that, and you have to perhaps go back and be a bit brutal and cut things out. So the other question, of course, was, am I insane? Well, no, of course you're not insane. You're just a writer, as my friends like to tell me. Basically, you have a solitary hobby, which will hopefully be a career for you one day, which involves you spending a lot of time on your own, essentially talking to yourself like I'm doing now, and that can make you feel a little bit strange sometimes, especially when your characters start talking in the back of your head, but you're not insane, especially if you're still producing work. If you feel like putting underpants on your head and sitting around playing wibble, just go out and get a cup of coffee and you will soon feel better. So I hope that answers your question, Stevie. If you would like any more information from me, you can send me an email on my website, as you did before, at www.zoemarriott.com. Or if anyone else is interested in having a question answered on YouTube, they can send me an email via the channel here on YouTube. So thank you very much for listening. I hope this answered your question, and goodbye.